Hey Globetrotters, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Lori, and in this community, we aim to educate, motivate, and inspire each other in all things travel related. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about a long-awaited topic. I told you guys about my TikTok video that went viral. And if you're not following me on TikTok, be sure to go over there because I'm going to be posting most of my short form content there. So like little tips and tricks and hacks that I don't want to put in a long form, sit down, stand up video. So be sure to follow me there. It's the same Globetrotterlori on TikTok as well as on Instagram, where I'll be posting more like pictures and stuff about, food and my life and that kind of thing. Anywho, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you about that video that went viral, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the reasons why I basically said what I said, or I husky whispered in that video what I whispered in that video. So come along. So first things first, that video was recorded when my friend and I were, I think we were on our way to Baccarat for tea. I visited New York twice during the summer, during the Labor Day weekend, and the weekend immediately following for Fashion Week. And so while I'm there for those kinds of things, I'm doing other things in the meantime. I went to Tiffany's, I went to Baccarat. I posted all of those videos and shared all of that with you guys. So if you've missed that, if you're new here, go back and check out some of those videos at the end of this one. So on our way to that, I said, okay, let's just do a quick thing about, what not to do if you're a first-time tourist in New York City. And I will reiterate. Now, this video blew up, got over 600,000 views to date. And I think a lot of the New Yorkers were offended by what I said. Now, I'm a former New Yorker, so I understand. But they were a little bit offended. They were like, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. I shared 5 top things that my friend and I, we both grew up in New York. We met when we were in junior high school, early high school years, and we've been friends ever since. We've gone through a lot together. We were together on 9/11 in New York City, on the train, running across the bridge, trying to get out of New York. She's been in my wedding, all these things. Basically, we are like sisters, right? And so I stay with her mostly when I go to the city. And so I was having her be my voice because I was on the Parkway and I was at all these Labor Day parties, and my voice was gone. As you can see, my voice is now coming back from my trip to Italy, but my voice was completely gone. I had such a good time. That's how I know I had a really, really good time when I'm on a trip, if my voice just goes. And so I had her doing some of the talking for me, and she was, a little bit hesitant to be on camera, but then she said, fine, whatever, I'll do it. And we said, okay, well, let's come up with 5 things. I had these 5 things that I think that anyone who is a first-time tourist in New York should avoid doing. And the people came for me, and they came for me hard. So I'm going to talk about these things in a long form video and explain a little bit more of why I said the things I said. So number 5, which we thought was the least problematic, was not as unproblematic as we thought. We said, do not take a yellow cab. Take Uber or Lyft instead. There are a number of different reasons, and I wrote these reasons down on my phone to make sure that I got them all for you. But the number 1 reason is basically, if you don't know where you're going, if you're a first-time tourist, and again, this is the premise of this video, this is the premise of the tips that we shared in that very short TikTok. If you're a first-time tourist and you don't know your way around the city, then you may be taken for a ride. And the taxi cabs may even have you, going around in circles, and because it's metered, the price will be vastly different from what you think it is, especially if the trip is longer. If you're stuck in traffic, the price is higher. If you take a longer route, the price is higher. Certain neighborhoods, there is a premium surcharge attached to it. if the cab even takes you there in the first place. Now, there was a law passed recently that said that they cannot refuse to take you into certain neighborhoods. For instance, into Brooklyn, some taxi cabs, some yellow cabs will not take you there. We have had at least two in the last year that I've been in New York that have refused, that have driven off when we said we wanted to go to Brooklyn. That's illegal. Yes, that is illegal. And we did report them. And one, when we got into the cab, he said, oh, it's the end of my shift. I can't go all the way to Brooklyn because blah, 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 blah. If it's the end of your shift, why did you pick us up? So there are all of these excuses that they'll make not to go into the urban neighborhoods. And that's even if they stop to pick you up, if you look a certain way at all. And so I tend to prefer to take the lifts. My picture is on there. They know who's getting into their cab. There shouldn't be an issue. I know how much the trip is going to cost in advance. Now, there may be demand pricing. Let me get to my list. There may be dynamic demand pricing, and dynamic demand pricing may affect both Lyft/Uber prices. And I keep both apps on my phone because I compare the prices when I call for a car, because sometimes Uber is cheaper, sometimes Lyft is cheaper. In New York City, Uber tends to be cheaper than Lyft. And so I will check those out. But dynamic demand pricing basically means if you notice when you're at a concert or something and you go to call for an Uber or Lyft at that point, the price is sky high. Why is that? Because everyone else is calling for an Uber. Everyone else is calling for a Lyft. They're all getting out. The concert gets out at the same time. So, or a certain time of day, or if it's New Year's Eve, certain time of day, certain times of night, when there are less cars in supply, then the demand goes higher. So supply and demand, basic Econ 101. So when there is less of a supply and the demand goes up, then the prices also go up. So that can happen with the yellow cabs. That can also happen with the Ubers and the Lyft. There is a $7 minimum charge when you get into the yellow cab. $7 minimum charge. Basically, the main reason we said to not take a yellow cab is because the meter can be your enemy in certain conditions. School buses, traffic jams, traffic accidents, delays, the UN in session, some dignitary, the president, someone in town, and tunnels are shut down and all of that. Unless it's a flat fare, like you're coming from the airport, such as JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, perhaps. And I don't think Newark has a flat fare. I think LaGuardia and JFK. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. I am sure you will. But unless you have a flat fare, the meter can be your enemy. And so you need to be very careful about taking the yellow cabs. Yes, they're more regulated and all of that. But when I'm in an Uber or a Lyft, I feel safe. I put on my own app. I follow the route that the driver is driving, because Uber or Lyft will notify you and ask you if you're okay. If the driver deviates from that route at any point in time, I share my route with someone else, because that's another, safety regard. I have my ICE, my person, in case of emergency contact, one or two people that I will share that route with during that time, so they know where I am, they know what's going on. I will share the information about the car, just the way I get into a yellow cab. And I have been trained on this since I was young, living in New York City. Before I get into a cab, I take a picture of the license plate and I send it to someone else, because that's very important that someone else at least knows where you are. It may be too late for you, but at least there'll be justice for you in the end. Anyway, had to end it on a little bit of brevity. So getting into number 4, the fourth problematic thing we said is, apparently everything we said was problematic, but the fourth problematic thing we said was not to buy hot dogs from the street vendors. And the reason for doing this, we said, is because it's unsanitary. Yes, they have gloves on, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And even if they have their gloves on, they're handling the money with the same gloves. There is no place for them to use the restroom. Where are they using the restroom? All these things. It's just questionable sanitation conditions. And the people said, oh, the gray water hot dogs are the best. Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what? Say that again? Gray water hot dogs? I'm sorry. Mystery meat hot dogs? I'm sorry. But I don't recommend getting the gray water hot dog from the street vendors. I recommend you go into an establishment that has a health code rating and all of that. New York street vendors, it's not the same as going to Southeast Asia, certain countries, and having Michelin star food trucks with ratings and all those things up there. This is a different environment altogether. So I recommend, and I still highly do, that you avoid the hot dogs on the street. Yes, my New York accent is going to come out during this video. You're going to hear it. Number 3, we said do not stare people in their eyes. Now, this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek because we said, oh, you're going to get into a fight. Now, New Yorkers have this big stereotype of always being aggressive and always being ready to fight somebody and everything. Not necessarily. However, this is just common advice for anywhere you go, not to stare at people when you're going about. It's just not recommended, okay? And I certainly do not recommend that in New York, and I stand by that. We recommended not taking the subway as a first-time tourist because you're not going to be comfortable with the subway if you've never taken the subway before. If you're by yourself, especially, I said, if you're solo, I would recommend you not taking the subway. The subway system can be very confusing. Yes, you can use your Apple Maps, and the Apple Map will tell you which train to take, which platform going in which direction, those kinds of things. But if you've never been in the New York City subway system, it gets very confusing. And so we recommended instead to take an Uber. That was another thing. And then the number one thing we said is do not walk slowly on the sidewalks. And I think every New Yorker agreed with me on this. But they said not just in the evenings when people are coming home from work, or not just in the mornings when people are going to work. They said at any time, please tourists, do not just stop in the middle of the subway. Do not just stop in the middle of the sidewalk and turn around and look around and just move out of the way to search for whatever you need. Step out of the way, please, and thank you. And also, please try to walk a little bit faster. I drive a little bit faster when I'm in New York. I walk a little bit faster when I'm in New York. When I'm driving from the south, and I'm coming up Highway 81, as soon as I hit like 66, like the DC metro area, and I get onto the 495 expressway before I get onto 95, my whole body language shifts. I seriously, my chair, my seat in my car comes up a little bit straighter. My hands grip the wheels a little bit before I'm leaning back like this. And then all of a sudden I'm full attention. My adrenaline starts pumping. The music changes on my radio, and I am ready to drive like I learned how to drive. I learned how to drive on the streets of New York. And so there's a lot more evasive driving. There's a lot more defensive driving. And so when I'm in the city, when I'm in DC, when I'm in Baltimore, when I'm driving on 95, when I get into New Jersey, and I definitely get on that New Jersey Turnpike and getting into New York, my whole stance changes. The same thing when I'm walking. When I'm walking in the South, it's a leisurely stroll. I'm looking at the trees. I'm looking at the beautiful views and everything. But then when I get into New York City, it's like there isn't so much time to look about and to pay attention to all the things. Yes, you're trying to be vigilant of your surroundings, but at the same time, you're also trying not to be a hindrance. You're not trying to be in the way and block someone and, delay their day. And so I tend to pick up my steps quite a bit, and I tend to get about 15,000 to 16,000 steps a day, which I don't get in the South because we drive everywhere. But yes, I walk a lot faster when I'm in New York, so I highly recommend it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do welcome your comments. So leave a comment down below in the comment section. I am eager to hear what you have to say. And as usual, thumbs up the video if you learned something new. Make sure to subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. I realize that the majority, over 90% of my viewers are not subscribers, and I would really like to hit 500 subscribers by the end of 2023. And so I would invite you to share this video with others that you know. And of course, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day. Remember to value experiences over things, because travel is the only thing you buy that truly makes you richer. Ciao.